the Taiwan issue is where, to make, oversimplifying things, where there was a civil war in the 1930s and 40s in China, and the nationalists, the KMT, Kuomintang, they lost, and they fled to Taiwan. And like 2 million people went in boats to Taiwan. They for many years they claimed that they ruled all of China. It's kind of a pipe dream. They actually had like people in parliament representing the areas in China that they were from, and so on. And on the PRC side, they said that they will very soon liberate Taiwan. They will liberate. That was imminent. And then during the Korean War, the U.S. then protected Taiwan, and so, but then when there was relations again with Kissinger, and then it was normalized during Carter. I think there was an expectation that the Taiwan issue will be worked out sooner or later, right? And China said there's only one China, because the Taiwan was officially known, it still is, as the Republic of China. China is the People's Republic of China. So there's this issue of, okay, let's kind of just kick the can down the road with the Taiwan issue, because sooner or later China will probably become democratic, maybe in the 2000s sometime, or this where we are now, and then they will work it all out through dialogue, right? Well, unfortunately, what happened in the meantime is that China has become none the more democratic. If anything, probably the 80s or maybe the first decade of this century were the high point of Chinese like liberty and human rights. The Hong Kong came back to China's sovereignty in 1997 under the one country, two systems model, which was seen as a model for Taiwan. So it's kind of like, Taiwan, look at what we can do. We can give you your sovereignty, more or less, except for military and foreign affairs. And look at what Hong Kong is able to do. It's able to keep its own economy, its own way of life, its own media, its own currencies, its own academic institutions. And now what China's doing in Hong Kong is they're basically implementing a one country, one system approach. And you have pro-democracy people in jail, and it's just horrible. So now there's no possible notion of a kind of at least for right now, of a negotiated settlement to kind of get Taiwan back. So that's one thing that's made people very nervous. On the other hand, if you look at Taiwan public opinion of, do you consider yourself Chinese? Do you consider yourself Chinese and Taiwanese? Or do you consider yourself only Taiwanese? I mean, I don't have the figures in front of me, but it went from a lot of people saying that they were Chinese or Chinese and Taiwanese to now almost all the people say that they're just Taiwanese. So Taiwan has developed a much more of a notion of its own kind of identity separate from China, in the last 30 plus years. And part of that was because in the 80s they went democratic. The mainlanders, the people who had come over and ruled kind of in a brutal authoritarian manner from the 40s to the 80s, were kind of gotten rid of, and there was a reckoning and kind of a Taiwanese identity. So yeah, that's caused a big problem now. But we've kind of continued to kick the can down the road. But there's now, I think, an assumption by many people that Xi Jinping doesn't want this to go on forever. And so what would that mean? If he doesn't want it to go on forever, this is a crucial year where he is going to probably at the 20th Communist Party Congress, which is a little bit like their presidential terms, like every 5 years they have a Congress. He will most likely be selected for another term, kind of breaking with tradition, where tradition held that you had 2 terms of 5 years. So he is kind of going towards a Putin-style dictator for life. And what I personally fear is that he, for his own glory and the glory of what he sees as China regaining its rightful place, that they will try to from their point of view, take back Taiwan. Um, Taiwanese people take offense at that because they said that we've never been under mainland sovereignty. But so yeah, I think it's a big dilemma